Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on a pretty significant credential in cybersecurity. It's the Offensive Security Certified Professional Plus, or, well, OSCP Plus.
That's right. OSCP plus L.
Navigating all the professional certifications out there, especially in cyber, can feel, well, overwhelming, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. It changes so fast. But the OSCP plus, yeah, that one consistently gets mentioned if you're serious about ethical hacking.
It really seems to stand out for proving your kind of practical skills, your actual doing skills.
Exactly. It's not just about knowing things. It's about showing you can apply them
Yeah.
under pressure. So yeah, it's more than just, a certificate. It signals real proficiency.
Right. So our mission today in this deep dive is to really unpack the OSCP plus WA. What does it actually involve? How do you even prepare for something like this? And, what's the real value it brings if you're aiming high in ethical hacking or penetration testing?
Good plan. And we're looking at some material related to OSCP plus dumps and exam pass support to get a feel for the resources people might use.
Yeah, to get that practical angle. So, okay, let's start right at the beginning. What is the OSCP plus AG fundamentally?
Well, at its core, think of it as a respected stamp of approval. It validates that you have practical, hands-on skills in ethical hacking and pen testing.
Yeah.
But what's really key and kind of fascinating is how it validates them. It's not just theory questions.
Okay.
The exam, which is designed by Offensive Security, throws you into a live, simulated network, a whole environment. Imagine like a network of computer servers all set up with deliberate weaknesses, vulnerabilities.
Ah, okay. So you're dropped into this virtual playground, basically.
Kind of, yeah. And your job is to find those weaknesses and, well, exploit them using real hacking techniques.
So much less about reciting definitions from a book and way more about, like you said, getting your hands dirty, finding actual security flaws.
Exactly.
And from what we're seeing, passing this thing, it's seen as a really major milestone, isn't it, for anyone serious about a career in pen testing or ethical hacking?
Oh, definitely. It's a tangible way to show employers, look, I can actually do this stuff.
Okay, so preparation. If it's that tough, how do people get ready? Our material mentions OSCP plus dumps, or OSCP exam questions. What's the deal with those?
Right, so dumps. It's kind of a loaded term sometimes, but in this context, it generally means collections of practice questions, often based on past scenarios or key topics. The idea is they're updated, practical questions to help you grasp the core concepts and get familiar with the exam's format, what kind of problems you'll face.
Okay, so like practice tests almost, to get a feel for the style.
Sort of, yeah. And the source material we looked at suggests these are seen as, well, pretty vital for growth, whether you're going through the official PEN 200 course for OSCP or just generally tackling OffSec challenges.
PEN 200, right? That's the official training course from Offensive Security that leads up to the OSCP plus exam, isn't it?
Correct, that's the foundation. These dumps, or practice questions, are positioned as a way to bridge the gap between learning the theory in PEN 200 and actually performing under exam conditions.
Makes sense. Our sources also talk about OSCP plus exam pass support. That sounds a bit more involved than just practice questions.
It does. It seems to point towards a more comprehensive approach. Things like structured learning plans, maybe expert guidance, mentorship, and importantly, focusing on that real-world practical experience, all designed to up your chances of actually passing the exam.
Which ties back to what you said earlier. It's not about memorizing answers. It's about building those hands-on skills that you'd actually use in a cybersecurity job.
Precisely.
And the info we have gets quite specific about the kind of online training offered as part of this support. It sounds pretty thorough.
Yeah, it mentioned covering all the labs, the
Yeah.
topology, questions, solutions, even verifications. That's quite detailed.
And delivered by best experts, apparently, using tools like Zoom, Skype, TeamViewer, standard roommate stuff.
What caught my eye was the flexibility mentioned. Customizable schedules, different session lengths like 4-8 hours. That could be useful. Plus things like a 6-month subscription with updates. That suggests it's not just a one-off thing. They try to keep it current.
Yeah, keeping it fresh seems important in this field. And the support structure sounds pretty robust, too. Email support as soon as possible, they say.
And 24/7 chat support. That constant availability could be a huge help when you're stuck on a tricky lab at like 2 a.m.
Definitely. They even mention specific exam guidance from experts' tips, strategies for the actual test day.
So it all points towards a very sort of structured and supportive ecosystem aimed at getting people through this tough, practical exam.
Speaking of the exam, let's dive into that format a bit more. Performance-based, hands-on lab. We got that.
Right. You're actively doing things, not just clicking buttons on a multiple choice test for the most part.
Okay, and the specifics. 5 machines to compromise.
5 machines, yeah. And you get a pretty long time, 23 hours and 45 minutes, so just under a full day.
Almost 24 hours. Wow. But interestingly, our notes also mention MCQs, multiple choice questions.
Yes, that's a point worth noting. Why the main challenge is the practical lab work breaking into those 5 machines. The inclusion of MCQs suggests you also need that solid theoretical foundation.
You're right, you need both. And each machine is worth 20 points.
Which makes the reporting absolutely critical.
The documentation. It's not enough just to get root access or whatever the goal is.
Not at all. You have to provide detailed reports for each machine. Your methodology, how you did it, step by step, screenshots as proof, all the evidence. It's about demonstrating a professional, thorough penetration testing process, not just, cowboy hacking.
Got it. Professionalism and proof. Okay, let's circle back to those dumps for a second. How should people view them based on our sources?
Well, the definition given is collections of practice questions, maybe past exam scenarios, designed to familiarize you with the format and the core concepts you'll encounter. Penetration testing basics.
So helpful for getting comfortable, maybe understanding the scope.
Exactly. But there's a strong caution included. While they can offer valuable insights, they really need to be used alongside proper hands-on practice and the official study resources, like PEN 200.
Right. Don't rely only on dumps.
Absolutely not. The OSCP Plus just isn't that kind of exam. You can't memorize your way through it. It demands real, practical skill. So yeah, dumps might help with recognizing patterns or focusing your study, but true success comes from grinding in the labs, practicing techniques, working on vulnerable machines, tackling those real-world type scenarios.
Okay, that makes sense. Which leads us to effective exam pass support. If dumps alone aren't the answer, what is helpful?
The sources point to a few key things. Number one, the official study material from Offensive Security. Can't really skip that.
Makes sense.
Then tons of practice in hands-on labs that's repeated over and over. And ethical mentorship programs are also mentioned as valuable.
The ethical part seems important there.
Very. It's about learning the right way to do things, responsibly and legally. The sources also mention engaging with the community, like forums, Discord groups, but again, within ethical boundaries. Getting knowledge, getting guidance, but not, cheating.
Right. Community support without crossing lines. Good point. Now, a big question for people looking at this. Do you need a ton of cybersecurity experience before you even start thinking about OSCP Plus One?
That's a common one. Interestingly, the material suggests that while experience definitely helps, it's not necessarily a hard requirement. It says many beginners do manage to pass PEN 200 OSCP.
Really? How?
Through basically sheer dedication. Lots of focused learning, putting in serious hours in the hands-on labs, and following structured study plans. The emphasis seems to be less on your starting point and more on your commitment to developing those practical pen testing skills via those real-world scenarios and practice labs.
So commitment and hard work can make up for a lack of prior experience, potentially. Okay, so for someone actually prepping for OffSec PEN 200, what are the top resources mentioned?
Okay, number one is always the official course materials from Offensive Security itself. That's the baseline.
Got it.
Then it's all about hands-on labs, hands-on labs, hands-on labs. Platforms like TryHackMe and Hack the Box come up. They provide those virtual environments to practice in.
Right, places where you can legally practice hacking skills.
Exactly. And also engaging in CTFs, capture the flag challenges. Those are great for honing specific skills. The key advice seems to be follow a structured learning path, don't just jump around randomly, and really, really practice privilege escalation techniques.
Privilege escalation. That's basically getting more power on a system you've already gotten into, right?
Precisely. Going from a regular user to an administrator or root user. It's a critical skill in pen testing and often a key part of the exam.
Okay, so bottom line, maximizing your chances of passing OSCP plus Warpsite. What does it really boil down to, according to this info?
Well, no big surprise here. It comes back to hands-on practice. Thoroughly working through all the PEN 200 OSCP lab exercises is stressed. Also, keeping meticulous notes as you go. Developing your own structured attack methodology, like a consistent process you follow.
A personal playbook, almost?
Kind of, yeah. And finally, given that almost 24-hour time limit, efficient time management during the exam itself is absolutely crucial. You can't afford to get stuck down a rabbit hole for too long.
Makes total sense. Now, our source material did mention a specific provider, CertPass Center, and some of their offerings for OSCP Plus support. What did it say about them?
Right. They highlighted a few things. One was a payment after passing policy. The details weren't super clear, but the gist seemed to be they'd cover your next exam fee if you didn't pass the first time after using their support.
Interesting guarantee model.
Yeah. They also emphasized 24/7 support, a focus on security and confidentiality of your info. Pretty standard claims for service providers. They mentioned having a portfolio of over 600 certifications they offer support for, an experienced team, and claimed a 100% success rate since 2024.
A 100% success rate is, well, that's a bold claim.
It is. You definitely want to understand how they define that. They also mentioned quick response communication.
And they provided contact info. Phone numbers +1 612 361 4289 and +917 7430 33804 and email info@certpasscenter.com and their website listed as home. They also listed some other top courses they handle, like PCI, RCDD, CCNP Cloud, CompTIA, CSP Plus PART, all with dumps and exam passport mentioned.
Right, suggesting they operate across a fairly broad range of IT and security certifications, specializing in IT security courses and InfoSec services overall.
It gives you a picture of the kind of third-party ecosystem that exists around these high-stakes certifications.
It certainly does. And, as with any third-party services, especially for something like exam prep, it's always, always wise for individuals to do their own thorough research and due diligence before committing.
Absolutely. Good advice. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. This deep dive into OSCP Plus really paints a picture of a certification that is, well, rigorous. It's demanding. And its defining feature is that intense focus on practical, real-world, hands-on skills in ethical hacking and penetration testing.
Totally. And we've seen there's a range of resources people might use to prepare, from practice questions or dumps to the official courseware, extensive lab work, and these more comprehensive exam support services.
But the big takeaway seems to be that while those resources, maybe like the dumps or structured support, can be helpful tools,
They're not a substitute for the actual work, for putting in the hours in the lab, truly understanding the concepts, and building that practical muscle memory. You can't shortcut your way to the kind of skills OSCP Plus validates.
yeah, it really demands genuine skill and commitment. So here's something to maybe leave you thinking about. We've talked a lot about how the OSCP Plus uses this intense performance-based exam to test real-world application. It makes you wonder, what other fields, what other professions do you think could really benefit from shifting towards more hands-on, practical assessments like this to truly prove expertise instead of just relying on traditional tests?
That's a great question. It really pushes us to think about how we measure competence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How different industries could better recognize and reward genuine practical ability.
Definitely something to chew on. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure.
Until our next exploration.